Hi, this is chess. As you know, chess is about checkmating your opponent's king. Yet, I've been watching a game being played here in the opening in which not a single chess games. What usually happens is that the battle takes a different kind of meaning. An attack on the king is easily defended if it is a direct attack, if there is no particular advantage in the position. And an advantage in the position is something that doesn't happen overnight. So most chess games are really attempts to get an advantage. And if you can't attack your opponent's king, which is a rarity, you go after his material. You try to win a pawn or a piece or something like that. The idea is simple. Once you win a piece, you can trade down your other pieces with your opponent's pieces and then use that piece to push to a pawn in the endgame and promote it and make it a queen. Once you have a queen, you have an overwhelming advantage, and once you have an overwhelming advantage, it's easy to mate your opponent. So the idea, again, is you pick up a little bit of material, you get a queen, and then you just mate your opponent. Now, I have here a master, in fact, a chess master, a master at winning material. His name is Dan Harrington. He's a former Massachusetts champion, a very strong player. And I have two positions here which involve the simple technique of winning material, which he hasn't seen yet. Don't look at them yet, Dan. I'm now going to ask him to look at these positions and expect him in less than 5 seconds to solve them. Okay, Dan, this is the first position. What's the correct move for white? How would you win material of black?
Knight to bishop 7 check.
Knight to bishop 7 check. Right. This is the move. You saw that if the knight goes here, it attacks the king and the bishop. It's a double attack. Black only has one move. He can't both move away the king and the bishop on the same move. He must move the king. His king is in check. There's no choice. If he moves his king, white can simply take the bishop. And black, say like this. And black is a bishop behind. White is a bishop ahead. For an expert chess player, evenly matched, this is an easy game to win. This extra piece will eventually allow him to queen a pawn and win the game. Okay, Dan, I think that was a fairly easy one. So you're going to have to try harder. We have a second position over here. How does white win? Again, it's going to be a double attack. Again, it's going to involve the best double attacking piece in the world, the knight.
Rook takes knight check, followed by knight takes bishop pawn check.
Okay, you said rook takes knight check, which is actually a sacrifice of the rook for the knight. Of course, the king has to take the rook. That's forced. You force that. You've given up material. And now, notice this. The king and the bishop are on squares which are symmetrically related to this pawn here. The square the pawn is on. And white can simply come here and attack the king and the bishop. Again, it's a check. Again, the king must move somewhere, let's say here. And the knight simply takes the bishop. And again, white has won material. In this case, let's see what he's won. First, he won the knight here. Then he won the bishop here. So he won a knight, a bishop, and a pawn. And he gave up a rook. Well, this is about 5 on a scale starting with 1. This is about 7. So white has won considerable material. And with the bishop, the knight, and this pawn here, which is passed, which can march down to become a queen because it's not blocked by any black pawns, this knight and bishop and pawn can score a queen against this lone rook and king, and white should win rather easily. Okay, Dan, that was very good. You saw the more difficult one faster than you saw the easier one. Can you do that anytime you want? I mean, do you just open up in chess games and win material by double attacks?
No, you must build up a positional advantage at first.
Okay. What Dan means by a positional advantage is you must get your pieces onto better squares, create pressure, force your opponent in defensive, until finally you're able to execute one of these double attacks because simply has no defending move except the move which allows a double attack. There are other ways to lose, but this is the most frequent susceptibility that develops. How, given that that's your general strategy, and of course we're going in our strategic section later to deal with the whole question of general strategy, how is it that you're able so quickly to pick out first on the other board where your knight came down and simply attacked a king and another piece, and here create a situation where your knight could do it? How are you able to see that through this maze of pieces on the chessboard?
Well, the first thing I look at, Shelby, is the position of my opponent's king. I've I look to see which one of my pieces can affect that king. And in this position, I saw that the rook can lure the king over to the king 1 square, and at the same time win a knight for a rook. And once on that square, I can further move the knight into a position which forks the king and the bishop.
Okay, I think that's one of the perceptions that a chess master would make. I'd also emphasize that, and I think you'd agree with this, that you also saw the undefended bishop here.
That's correct.
Another way of seeing it is the following procedure. You see that the knight can come here and take the pawn and fork the knight and the bishop. The bishop is undefended. That's fine. If you could create an undefended piece here, the king is excellent. You would be able to win the bishop. Well, how do you do that? You give up the rook for the knight. You may have already just thought of rook takes knight as a possibility to see what would happen. The opening position, of course, was simply the position which we wanted to reduce this to. That is, as it were, our paradigm for double attacks, in this case, knight forks. So this is the position you aim for. 2 pieces which you can attack simultaneously with the knight. In this problem, as in problems we will present next week, you do various things to create the ideal circumstances. Okay, at this point, I hope our audience is suitably prepared, because I'd like you, keeping that discussion in mind, to go through a similar procedure that Dan went through. In this position, white can win in a similar way. He can win material, that is. What you again have to look for are the targets, the forking square, and the sacrifice that wins the material. Okay, this is the position. It's your position. You can win material here. You have 45 seconds. See if you can find the win. Remember, you're to look for targets. The queen, of course, is a target. You're to find another target. If the target fights back or it's not ideal, you try to create the ideal target. You look for the scheme of the fork, and you try to make the fork work in practice. The fork being simply one kind of double attack. Okay, you're still into that 45 seconds. This is your position. See if you can find the winning move. Okay, the winning move here is queen takes knight check. Black, of course, if he doesn't want to lose a knight, has to take the queen. The ideal of forking double has been created. The square is available. White simply comes here and forks the queen and king. At the end of that procedure, it's interesting to notice that white is a knight ahead. And again, white has a winning advantage and can win the game. Okay, Dan, do you have any last remarks you'd like to make about seeing the board in general?
Yes. Again, you can see the relationship between the knight, your knight, versus the black king and the black queen. You look for what square you want to lure the king on.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to have to interrupt you at this moment because we have something else going on in the studio. We have a strategic section, i.e., we have a position, a middle game position, in which the immediate goal is not to win something by a sequence of 1 or 2 moves, but the immediate goal is to play the position as it is until a situation is created in which you have the kind of advantage where you can win material. So it's playing the position in a general sense. We have playing that position 2 young players from New England. Playing the white pieces, we have Mika Ladov, a Radcliffe freshman, and playing the black pieces, we have Chris Chase, a young player from Newburyport. We're waiting for Mika to make the first move. I don't have the position, Jerry. Okay, yeah, we're waiting for Mika to make the first move. And I'm also a little perplexed because I'm waiting for the position that hasn't been set up here yet, and I'd like to show it to you before I talk about it. Mika, I think I can talk about it in general until we do get it. Mika has an advantage in space on the king side. She can launch an attack here if she wants to. The question is how she will do it. Black, Chris, her opponent, has a difficult task of defense. The position is being set up over here on our second board. This will later be our master board. It will be the position we are dealing with, which will never change. Okay, here's the position that Mika has. Remember, Mika is white. Mika is white, black is Chris. Well, okay, Mika is about to make her move. I think it's a good time now to find out what her opponent feels about this position. Chris,
Yes?
you've seen the position. What's your reaction to it?
It's very bad for black.
Could you repeat that?
It's very bad for black.
It's very bad for black.
Yeah, yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, white has more mobility, has a strong square at king bishop 5 for his knight.
Right.
And this is gonna
You're saying white has a strong square at bishop 5 for his knight.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And he just seems like all his forces are mobile.
I can't hear it, by the way. Okay, what else would you say about it? Do you think you have defensive chances? Sure, the knight can come in. What else are you afraid of?
I don't know. Just rook sacrifices on king bishop 7 with a
Sacrifice at where?
king bishop 7.
King bishop 7. You mean king bishop 6? The rook for the knight?
Mm-hmm. And
Okay. So you're afraid that black is going to launch an attack over here on the king side. All right. While we're waiting for Mika's move, which should come in momentarily, I'd like to introduce to you our panel here. I have on the far right John Curto, who is many times New England champion, one of the strongest players in this region. I have sitting next to him Donna Brown, a recent newcomer to chess from Massachusetts. And over here in the far left, I have Brian Warnick, who is a very strong 12-year-old who I think will help us very much in this analysis. Okay, we're waiting for Mika's first move here. Doubtlessly, she knows she has the advantage. The question is how she will pursue it at this point. That buzzer indicates that the first move has been made. It will be handed to me in a moment, and we'll see how play is proceeding. Okay, it will be some kind of effort on the king side, I'm pretty sure. Okay, the move by Mika is somewhat of a surprise, although not to everyone here. The move is a sacrifice of the rook for the knight. White is immediately giving up material here. Evidently, Mika feels that her position is exceptionally strong if she's giving up material. You may wonder why she gives up material. The reason is that with this move, she's taken away a very important black defender. The knight here was controlling certain squares. The knight has been removed. In removing the knight, white has also forced a rupture in the black pawn position. This is very important. When the pawn was here, there was a certain flexibility in defense. When the pawn is here, white can do almost anything she wants. Okay, I think in order to get the procedure straight here, I'm going to leave this board. This is our master board, and go back to our analysis board because I don't want to lose the position. Okay, again, Mika's move was rook takes knight. Her opponent replied pawn takes rook, and we have okay, at this point, we're waiting for black's reply. The white rook is here. And I expect that black has taken the rook with pawn takes rook. What do I need those for? Queen here. Okay, the first move is evidently pawn takes rook. And position is not yet set up. Okay, let me go back to this board where, okay, I understand that the reply by Chris was pawn takes rook. So this is the position. It's Mika again to move. Mika doubtlessly at this point is considering how she'll conduct the attack. She has many choices. John, could you comment here on this general position and what white can do?
Well, this sacrifice has given white a tremendous bind on the king side. White should put the knight at bishop's 5, where it'll be very difficult to be driven away.
Right.
And in doing that, it'll threaten checkmate in 2 moves.
Checkmate in 2 moves.
Right.
Okay, I see what you mean. Let's see if our audience can see that checkmate. Okay, there's a checkmate in 2 moves here for white. This is a good exercise for you. It's a very basic checkmate. It was probably in Mika's mind when she played rook takes knight. How can white checkmate in 2 moves if black were to ignore the threats here? In other words, let's say it was white's move. How would white checkmate in 2 moves? Take 15 seconds and see if you can see the mate. Here's the king. White has some powerful pieces here. Black's defenders are way over there. How can White checkmate in this position? Okay, the answer is simply queen to knight 4, attacking the king. The king has no escape squares. And now with the aid of the knight, that protects that square there and will protect the queen, which goes to that square. White has a checkmate. It's as simple as that. So you see the kind of dire straits that Black is in, and we can appreciate Chris's feeling that his position may not have been that good. Okay, Chris has this to contend with. The question is, what is he going to do at this point? He's threatened with checkmate by White's first move. I don't see any way he can get any of his defensive pieces over. You have an idea, Brian? Okay, excuse me, Brian. We'll get your idea in a moment. We have more moves coming in. Well, Brian, what is your idea while we're waiting for the moves?
Well, it looks like Black is forced to play king to rook 1.
King to rook 1. That at least stops White from checking.
Yes.
But let's say White comes here with a queen and attacks, threatens mate anyway.
Okay, if White plays this.
All right, listen, before we go into that, let our audience think about that. I want to post the new moves. We'll come back to it, okay?
Right.
So the question is, what if White comes here? Perhaps we'll find out in the new moves that have just come in. Okay, the move was pawn takes rook, knight to bishop 5. We haven't got beyond this situation yet. The question is, if White does play queen to knight 4, threatening mate, how can Black defend? Well, Black has to defend this square, right? Donna, do you see a way Black can defend the square?
Rook to knight 1.
Rook to knight 1. This is really the only piece around, right? Okay, this does it. So we might expect that Black will come here. We know if Black comes here, White at least can't mate by queen here. We're sure of that. That doesn't mean White's attack is stopped. Knight is still very strongly posted. The Black pieces are in play yet. And White has, remember, a bishop bearing down here. That might be of some value. And a rook and a queen here, in addition to the knight, to launch the attack here. John, you have some ideas about how to go about mating Black here.
White has to proceed reasonably fast because Black can play bishop to bishop's 1 and capture the tremendous knight. You see.
Right, and once the knight is gone, it's questionable as to whether White can actually win any material here. And if he can't, if she can't, if Mika can't, she's simply a rook down for a knight, right?
Right, and that way queen to rook 5 could be a good follow-up.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying is there's a certain tension in the position. Although Black's defensive resources are limited, they threaten at each point to absolutely stop White and get a winning advantage.
Right.
So White has to find some way to really press this advantage. So Black can't at least can't take over. White has to, what is said in chess, keep the initiative. At least keep the attack until finally some way is found to break through. And you're suggesting queen to rook 5 is a possibility.
Right.
Okay, maybe you can explain to me what the reason is. I'll use your own weapon against you. What would you do against bishop to bishop 1, threatening to take off this menacing knight?
Well, there's a couple of possibilities. Queen to rook 6 would be rather strong.
Queen to rook 6. Queen to rook 6. So what you're doing, I haven't looked yet, but I think you're making some kind of counterattack, right?
Right.
What are you attacking?
Well, the rook and the bishop's pawn.
Right. I didn't even notice that at first. I was looking at the bishop's pawn. The rook is threatened, and there's a very strong threat in that, isn't there? Queen takes rook mate.
To say the least.
Okay. So it's a little worse for Black than I thought. The question, of course, is whether our player is going to do this. We are still at this position with the queen here. And we think Black will come here. If Black should, the question is whether Mika will come here. We still haven't analyzed whether this wins. John, I'm going to now, because our analysis board has been set up, go back to the analysis board, set up our current position, which comes after rook takes knight, pawn takes rook, and knight to bishop 5. Brian, do you think John's attack is going to win? For example, well, what do you think about it?
Well, it could on queen to rook 5.
What's your feeling about it in general at this point?
Well, it looks like White has a very good queen side, or king side bind.
Right.
And he should try to get as many pieces over there as possible.
Do you think Mika can? Do you think she can win it? What's your intuition at this point? Obviously, it's impossible in the short time you've had here to make a definitive study of the position, right?
Yes.
So
looks
what's your intuition?
It looks very good.
It looks very good.
For
Could
white.
you explain why?
Well, one of the reasons is that black's pieces are all shut off from the king side.
In other words, these pieces over here, right?
Yes. So white really has on the king side a queen where black does not.
Right.
And
You carry that. Okay, we have more moves here, Brian, and we'll see whether, in fact, Mika did make the move that John's intuition tells him is the best move. Okay, I have the moves here, and the move by black was king to rook 1, and Mika played queen to rook 5. She's in a very remote part of the studio. I don't think she heard us. So we have a simultaneous meeting of minds here, and black perhaps evidently not liking the move that I suggested by John, that I repeated that John suggested in general, played rook here. So black has played rook here. I'm not sure exactly why. I know it seizes the file. I know perhaps the rook can see some of the squares over here. Black is playing very actively because this involves a sacrifice, doesn't it? I mean, a very small sacrifice, but a sacrifice.
Well, the thing I was going to point out before, that white's main trump lies in rook to king's 3 to rook's 3. That's where his main attack will come
Okay,
from.
what you're saying is that you'd like to take advantage of the remoteness of the major black pieces and launch an attempt, a mating attack here.
Right.
We saw in our earlier analysis of this, when we looked at John's move, queen here, check, and queen down mate, that if you get a queen down in front of the king, supported by an enemy piece, you can threaten checkmate. And John is suggesting that rook here and rook here will do the job. The rook and queen lined up over here will threaten mate here, and unless black has a way of getting his pieces over, he's lost. Okay, we have more moves at this point. I'm beginning to think that black is in great trouble, and I'd like to at this point get the opinion of white, who seems to be optimistically pressing this attack. Mika, what do you think your chances are here of winning, although you've given up your rook for the night?
I think they're pretty good.
You think they're pretty good?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No,
How good
I'm
do you
not
think they
sure.
are?
I'm not sure at all.
You're not sure?
I'd say it's about 60-40.
You think you have, it's in all likelihood you're going to win this?
I think if I don't misplay it, or if I haven't already misplayed it, I think I have a good chance. As long as I keep my bishop 5 occupied, I can probably keep out his pieces from the king's side, which are somewhat misplaced.
Okay, you said misplay it. What you mean is that you have all the practical chances if you play as well as your opponent, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
As long as I don't
Okay, I
get
think
into
you're
an
being
endgame.
very modest
Okay.
because you certainly are conducting this attack with a ferocity here. Okay, Mika, thank you very much. Okay, we're still in this position, and no moves have come in yet. We found out from Mika that she shares our optimism for the white side. We do have a new move. It's rook to king 3 by white. So Mika's again following John's plan of attack. There seems to be some logic that chess players go by, because here we have many times New England master who's beaten many of the best players in the country, and we have a young sophomore at Radcliffe who is a class B player, which is a strong player, but certainly many levels below our very strong master, John Curto, who is finding precisely the same attack that John found. This is a very devastating technique, and I think with this technique, Mika could beat most players in the world, but not most players who are stronger than her. Okay, John, Brian, Donna, you've been looking at this position a while now. Do you think black has a defense?
I still fall back on bishop to bishop's 1 and bishop takes knight.
Right.
To avoid the immediate
Well, look,
pressure on the
you're
rook
saying
pawn.
bishop here, and white plays rook here threatening mate. If bishop takes knight, can't the queen simply take the
The
pawn
bishop
mate?
then protects the rook's pawn.
You're right. Okay, so you're saying black does have a resource, bishop here. Now, it seems that white will simply come over here and threaten checkmate. The obvious piece to defend with, which is the rook at knight 1, could go to knight 2, but it's kind of useless because white will simply play knight takes rook, winning back the exchange. And it's true that if white plays this, black can take the knight and can escape over to this. Well, perhaps he can. I think he'll be mated.
Well, bishop takes rook was available to
Yeah, bishop takes rook
black.
was available too. Okay, let's look at this slowly. There's more to it than I immediately saw.
Black's defensive resources are beginning to show now.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, we just tried some variations. We have more moves coming in, by the way. We tried some variations, and besides the move that John suggested, which does defend, and maybe we'll see this in the moves that we're just getting in, rook to knight 2 may also be a defensive move. We haven't quite worked it out yet, but black does have, surprisingly, a few resources here. All right, at this point, black played another move. And let me go to the analysis board and set this position up. Okay, we have this position. Mika's last move was rook to, up to the moment recent moves, was rook to king 3. Black brought his rook to the knight file. And let's see, after rook to king 3, black now played rook to knight 4. So this shows the difficulty in analyzing any chess position in a finite amount of time, simply because there are many, many possibilities. Brian, what do you want to say at this point?
Is the bishop on bishop 1 or not?
Let's see.
It'll be on knights 2.
No, I think the bishop
right.
hasn't gone to bishop 1 yet. Okay, and our second move, our reply by white, whose queen is attacked, is to bring the queen back to rook 4. Okay, this is our position now. I'm going to go back to the analysis board. See, black played rook here, and Mika replied queen to rook 4. I have the feeling now that Chris has blunted, at least temporarily, Mika's attack. What do you think?
Well, we see more defensive resources here. Now, black can launch a counterattack himself by bringing his queen's rook to king knights 1.
All right, now you're saying these pieces that seem to be buried in the queen side can be brought over, and perhaps black can launch an attack of his own.
Right. And he also has the option of giving up the rook for the knight, which might relieve some of the pressure.
Right, well, and actually his game may not be too bad then. He's given back the exchange. That's something we'll have to think about. I'm not sure Mika's last move was the best move. Don't you think? Yeah. Oh, maybe it was. If queen to rook 6, which is an attempt to attack this undefended pawn, we have more moves coming in at this point. Black could simply bring the rook back. Okay, Black's rook is functioning here extremely well. And it seems to be at this point that white is... I'm having a little trouble with my earpiece here, excuse me. It seems to be at this point that white is on the defensive. John... Okay, anyway, white came here, and black made another move, the move suggested by John earlier, which is a strong attempt to even further compromise white's position. Remember, white has given up the exchange. Mika is down in material, and her biggest compensation for that sacrifice is the knight at bishop 5, and now black, Chris Chase, is threatening to take that knight off with the bishop at bishop 1. Okay, this is the position at the moment. Okay, what are Brian, what do you think?
Well, knight to rook 6 looks awfully strong.
Okay, you're saying knight to rook 6.
Yes.
Now that has a threat. In fact, it's one of those knight forks that we looked at last time. The only problem here is that it's black's move. White is threatening to play knight takes pawn check, forking the king and the rook. Yeah. And of course, black cannot take the knight off because the bishop is defending it. Well, if black had no moves, that would win, right?
Oh, yes.
What can black do to defend against that threat?
Bishop to king's 3 is a possibility.
Bishop to king 3. That blocks the bishop, right? And develops black's bishop. That seems to stop it fine. I mean, it's true white can take the bishop, but black will take the bishop back.
Yeah.
It seems that this advantage in space here has been blunted. And black, who is ahead in material, is now threatening to take off the knight for the bishop, really stop most of white's attacks. In fact, after this king pawn goes here, black will have the massive pawns in the center that he can mobilize. So it seems that the ability that the advantage that white had is quickly vanishing. There's still a lot of fight in this position, however. Knight to rook 6 doesn't seem to work. Are there any other moves for white here? How about bringing the rook over? Okay, we're having trouble here. Perhaps you back home have some idea. Can you find a move for white in this position? All right, this position is about as far as we're going today. We're going to, in our next week's strategic section, set up the board in this position and continue the game. It's possible at this point black has actually taken over the initiative. Before we leave today, we're going to give you a suggestion as to how to play the position. But it's going to be a non-human suggestion. We have a hookup here with a computer from Columbia, I'm told. Its name is Supernova. And after I press the right keys, it's going to give us its rather mechanical, brainy move in this situation. Okay, here's our electronic terminal. I press these keys, and I hit this knob. And the move on the paper here is rook to rook 3. Well, it happens to be the move we were considering. It isn't the move we decided was good. This is the move made by the computer Supernova at Columbia. This is the position you would be playing if you were a computer. We don't know what Mika's move is. She's going to have a whole week to study this position. So is Chris. Next week, after our strategic section is ended, by the way, we will have two very strong masters plays at blitz speed to see how masters, who are certainly a level stronger, play this kind of position. We'll also continue our tactical section, so we'll see you next week.